They laughed at him. Hollywood turned its back. The headlines said his career was dead. No calls, no roles, no respect. Then, when no one was watching, he made one decision. One movie. One final risk. And what happened next? Made America believe again. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Dive into what really happened. Everyone had already written him off. Hollywood whispered his name like a warning, not a promise. Behind closed doors, executives muttered doubts, gossip columns printed snide remarks, and once faithful fans slowly moved on. Producers stopped calling. Critics rolled their eyes. Audiences barely remembered his last hit. They said he was finished. Over. Once, his name alone could open theaters. Posters featuring his face had drawn millions worldwide. Studios trusted him with massive budgets, knowing his presence could guarantee box office success. He was the man who carried films on his shoulders, whose charisma could make the biggest gamble feel like a sure thing. But fame is cruel, fleeting, and relentless. One bad phase, a string of flops, a few negative headlines, and suddenly the same industry that had built him up was ready to discard him. People said he was too old, too risky, no longer relevant. Move on, they said. There's a new generation waiting. And the world listened. Late-night talk shows made jokes at his expense. Memes spread across social media. And headlines questioned whether he still had what it took. New stars had arrived. Fresher faces, flashier personas, younger, faster, louder. Hollywood doesn't wait for anyone. It replaces, it discards, and it moves on without a second thought. But while the cameras stopped flashing and the world turned its attention elsewhere, something quietly simmered within him. A fire that refused to die. Behind the closed doors of his empty dressing rooms, in the quiet moments after a failed audition, he refused to let doubt define him. Each rejection was like a spark to the flame, pushing him to study harder, train longer, and dig deeper into the craft that had once made him a legend. This wasn't just about reclaiming fame. It was about proving something to himself. A reminder that talent doesn't vanish, that passion doesn't expire, and that the human spirit can endure far longer than the fickle applause of the crowd. While the world believed he was finished, he knew the truth. The fire inside him was far from extinguished. And somewhere deep down he also knew that the right opportunity, just one chance, could change everything. Behind the scenes, things were even worse than the headlines suggested. The world only saw the flops and failures, but no one witnessed the quiet struggle, the crushing silence that followed each rejection. Scripts that once arrived daily now stopped coming entirely. Meetings with producers and directors ended with polite smiles and nods, but behind those smiles were silent rejections. Invitations to auditions dwindled. Studios wanted him, but only in small, forgettable roles, shadow parts that reminded him of what he had once been. And that hurt more than failure ever could. Imagine dedicating your entire life, your passion, your soul to something, only to be told, without drama or apology, that you were no longer needed. The applause had faded. The lights had dimmed. The red carpet no longer rolled out for him. Every phone call that didn't come, every opportunity that passed him by, was a small cut, a reminder that the world was moving on without him. Friends tried to help in their own way. Slow down, they advised, as if surrendering gracefully was the only solution. Some suggested retirement. Others urged him to accept reality and leave the spotlight behind. Even strangers had opinions, mocking the idea of his return, reminding him of his age, his decline, his past mistakes. But deep inside, he knew one immutable truth. He wasn't done. Not even close. The fire that had once propelled him to the top of the industry still burned within. It was quieter now, perhaps more tempered, but it was relentless. It whispered to him in the middle of the night, telling him to keep going, to keep believing, to fight for the thing he loved most. Instead of chasing fame or pleading for attention, he returned to the basics. He trained harder than ever, pushing his body and mind to the limit. He studied scripts with renewed focus, dissecting every character, every line, every nuance. He revisited the films that had first inspired him, reconnecting with the raw, unfiltered passion that had drawn him to movies in the first place. And then, quietly, almost without fanfare, a single script landed on his desk. Not a guaranteed blockbuster. Not the favorite of any studio executives. Just one movie. One opportunity. Almost everyone around him told him not to do it. "It's too risky," they said. "You've already fallen too far." But in that moment, he didn't hear their doubts. He only heard the challenge, and the possibility the movie was risky. More than anyone could imagine. It wasn't backed by a massive budget, there were no flashy marketing campaigns, and the expectations from critics and studios alike were minimal. To the outside world, it seemed like just another small project, destined to be forgotten. But for him it felt different. The pressure was enormous. If this movie failed, there would be no second chance. His career, already on fragile ground, would officially be over. Yet something about the story called to him. It wasn't just a script, it was a mirror. The character mirrored his own struggles. The doubt, the rejection, the feeling of being past his prime. Every line, every scene seemed to speak directly to him, reminding him why he had fallen in love with acting in the first place. This wasn't merely a role, it was a reflection of his life, a chance to fight not just on the screen, but for his own redemption. He said yes. No hesitation. No excuses. No shortcuts. From the very first day of training, he approached it like a newcomer, not a veteran. Early mornings were spent perfecting movements, late nights dedicated to understanding every nuance of his character. Injuries tested his resolve, but he pushed through, refusing to let pain or fatigue dictate his performance. Rehearsals became grueling marathons, each scene a battle. Every gesture, every line, every pause mattered because this wasn't just acting, it was his last stand. When filming wrapped, the world was silent. There was no red carpet, no pre-release buzz, no social media frenzy. Critics barely raised an eyebrow. Studios watched cautiously, their skepticism palpable. It was as if the world had already decided whether he belonged in the spotlight or not. Opening weekend arrived. And then, something unexpected happened. Audiences leaned forward in their seats, drawn in by the authenticity he poured into every moment. They laughed, they gasped, they felt heartbreak and triumph alongside his character. Slowly the whispers began. "He's back. He's still amazing." Word of mouth spread like wildfire. People weren't just watching a movie. They were witnessing a comeback. They believed in the character, and through him they began to believe in the man behind the role once more. For the first time in years, the world was reminded of his passion, his talent, and his unbreakable spirit. The movie didn't just perform well, it shocked everyone. Box office numbers didn't merely meet expectations. They soared past them. Week after week, theaters were filled with audiences eager to witness the story. People who had once doubted him were now leaning forward in their seats, captivated by every scene, every line, every emotion. Reviews, once cold and dismissive, turned deeply emotional. Critics who had mocked him in the past now praised his dedication, intensity, and authenticity. They wrote about the care he had poured into each movement, each expression, each subtle nuance that made the character feel alive. The man who had been written off by Hollywood was now being recognized for the talent that had never truly faded. People weren't just watching a film, they were witnessing a comeback. For many, it was more than entertainment. It was a story of resilience, determination, and the human spirit refusing to bow to failure. Fans flocked to social media to share their awe. "He's back," they declared. Others said, "He never left." Slowly but surely, the narrative changed. The world that had once whispered doubt now cheered loudly and clearly. America believed again, but not because of explosions, flashy action sequences, or big-budget spectacle. They believed because of heart, because they could see a man fighting not just for a role, but for himself, for his craft, for the very essence of who he was. That one movie reminded the world of something fundamental and timeless. Talent doesn't disappear. Passion doesn't expire. Legends don't quit quietly, even when the odds seem impossible. Suddenly, the calls began again. Offers returned, bigger and bolder than before. Stronger scripts, more challenging roles, and opportunities to shine in ways he hadn't seen in years. Respect long lost came rushing back. But this time it was different. He wasn't chasing validation. He didn't need to prove anything to critics, studios, or even the public. He had already won. Not because the world told him so, but because he had refused to surrender. This moment wasn't just a comeback, it was a statement. A reminder that no matter how many times life pushes you down, the right mix of passion, courage, and persistence can make the world believe in you again. And for him, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter, written on his own terms. This story isn't just about a movie star. It's about anyone who has ever been told they're finished. It's about those who have faced public failure, who were replaced, ignored, or doubted, and who felt the world moving on without them. It's about the quiet struggles that happen behind the scenes, the sleepless nights, the moments of self-doubt, the fear that maybe, just maybe, the world was right to count you out. The truth, however, is simple but powerful. One moment, one decision, one chance can change everything. All it takes is the courage to step forward when everyone else expects you to step back. He was told he was finished. The whispers, the jokes, the skepticism, it all could have ended his story. And yet he chose to act, to fight, and to believe. He didn't prove them wrong with words. He didn't argue, complain, or make excuses. He let his actions speak. Through relentless work, unwavering belief, and quiet courage, he reclaimed not only his career but also the respect of the world. Every late night of training, every moment spent perfecting his craft, every ounce of sweat and dedication, it all culminated in a single triumph that reminded everyone watching that true talent cannot be silenced. And the most important lesson is that this isn't limited to actors or celebrities. It's for anyone feeling invisible. Anyone who feels pushed aside, overlooked, or undervalued. Life will sometimes push you into the shadows. The world will tell you that your time has passed. People may doubt your worth. But these moments are never the end. They are a test of your resilience, determination, and courage. Because sometimes all it takes is one opportunity, one daring leap forward to turn everything around. One project, one decision, one bold step can make the world believe in you again. And the most remarkable part, once you take that step, the world isn't the only one who changes. You do too. Confidence returns, passion reignites, and the fire inside, once dimmed, blazes brighter than ever. So, if you're watching this, remember, your comeback doesn't require permission from anyone. It doesn't require validation or applause. It only requires that you refuse to quit, that you take your chance, and that you act when the world expects you to stay silent. One move, one choice, one moment of courage, and you can make the impossible happen.